It's time to get your checking account to zero with free checking from PenFed. That's zero ATM fees, zero balance requirements, and zero time spent waiting for your paycheck to direct deposit because you can receive it up to 2 days early. Open your account with just $25 and see how big zero can be. Apply online today at penfed.org/free checking. Early direct deposit eligibility may vary between pay periods and timing of payers' funding. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA.
PenFed's got great rates for everyone.
Hey everyone, I am Jeff Lund, and this is the Mediocre Alaskan Podcast, where we are intolerant of weak-minded attitudes that keep people from pursuing new and exciting things in the areas of fitness, outdoors, and general lifestyle. My guest today is Amanda Davidshofer. She's a personal trainer here in Ketchikan, has a doctorate in physical therapy, started the Strength and Empowerment Program for Ketchikan residents, and has some of the more epic hiking and kayaking stories that I have heard. All of that is coming up in episode 7 of the Mediocre Alaskan Podcast. Well, Amanda, thanks for spending some time and being available to talk here. I want to start off with, I lived in California for a little while, did some fly fishing in Sierra Nevada, and you spent some time there hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. My buddies and I had always wanted to do like the John Muir section of it, but we never did that because we were too distracted fishing. But tell me about that experience, why you did it, how it was. You went all the way from Mexico up to, was it all the way to Canada, right? So
Yep.
all the way to there. So
Yep.
Talk a little bit about that, why you did it and how it was.
Yeah. So it was in 2007, and I graduated from physical therapy school. I have my doctorate in physical therapy, and I graduated in 2006. And so I went straight through high school, college, graduate school, and then got my first job. And all of a sudden, everything hit me, and I was like, I'm working a 9 to 5. I haven't had fun. Like, I don't know what life is. I don't want to work that grind. I'm 23 years old, 24 years old. There's got to be more. Mm-hmm. So just and a number of events kind of led me to that. I felt like my emotional capacity for life was really limited. I was so stressed out, so burnt out. And then a couple of deaths in the family, I just came unhinged. Mm-hmm. So just to make it even more dramatic, I shaved my head first, and I have really long curly hair, and it was about this length, and I shaved my head and just decided I would do it. I didn't have a ton of backpacking experience, but I wanted to just go explore, and I had only been to the West Coast one time. I grew up in Pennsylvania, and what a better way to see it, right?
Yeah.
So I learned what I could. I got the gear that I could. I made a lot of mistakes. Cheryl Strayed the Wild and Bill Bryson's book. I was one of those with
there you go.
Heavily overpacked and wrong shoes and blisters all over my feet. But yeah, I got to walk through California, Oregon, and Washington, and it was so amazing to be acquainted with the land in that way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just it was a time for me to decompress, reevaluate my life, learn about myself, and really set my priorities. That experience really shifted my life in a way that has helped me be the person I am right now.
When some people go through traumatic things or they feel overwhelmed, they do different things, like not hike the Pacific Crest Trail. They do like the party sort of, I'm going to go to Cancun for a week or a month or go to Vegas or something like that. So why was yours more of a reflective, go to nature rather than some might call it a self-destructive sort of? I freaked out, and so I just started partying like I was 21 again. Why did you turn to a more therapeutic, transcendentalist sort of Walt Whitman and Thoreau would be proud type approach?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that this was instilled in me at an early age. I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, and we had a huge wooded area behind our backyard that just went on for miles and miles and miles, and it was like our playground. And I didn't have the best of childhood, so when my parents would fight or things would happen, I would run away. So into the woods, and I would find ponds and trees, and I would play and explore, and like all of a sudden my whatever was happening in the house went away, and it became a refuge for me. It became a safe place. So it's interesting because a lot of people, even for hiking or going out into the wilderness, are more fearful of bears or wildlife or the unknown. But for me, it was safety. For me, it was security. And it just felt really like I wanted to do something big. I knew I was capable physically, and I wanted to push myself. I wanted to just be in nature, which was, again, like my go-to place.
I lived in California for a little bit, and I was surrounded by almond orchards. So it was trees, but growing up here, it's different when the trees are all in rows. And so, like, you talked about that safe space, that space to kind of get away from everything that's bothering you is really important.
Yeah.
Which probably played into part of the move up here. You said when you moved up here, you kayaked from Portland.
From Anacortes, Washington.
From Anacortes. Okay, so
Yeah.
you got Anacortes is fairly close to the border of Canada, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's right near, well, it's Washington. So we kayaked through the San Juans, and then in the Gulf Islands and along Vancouver Island, and then came across Canada through Portland Inlet to Ketchikan, and then continued on the Inside Passage. So we came, hung out for a little bit, saw where we were going to live, and then continued kayaking to Glacier Bay.
Well, was there a point when you thought, hey, we kind of got the point across? This has been fun. You know, maybe we get on the ferry or something like that, or was it just the time of your life? Well, how was that?
Yeah, it was for me, I had the experience with long distance hiking, so that there's an appeal to a long distance trek. For sure, you can capture that with like a 3-week jaunt for a John Muir Trail or something like that. But for me, it just felt like it was another transition in life. So I was moving up with my boyfriend at the time, who were now married, and we wanted to do a wild adventure together. And for sure, there were times when we were like, should we just call this? But there's something sticking to, like, we set out to do the Inside Passage. We want to do the whole thing. There were for sure times, both on the Pacific Crest Trail and the Inside Passage, where I wanted to give up. It was so hard. The weather, the elements, you don't have your comforts. All I wanted was like a warm blanket and a cup of tea. And it's just the simple things that I didn't have. But there's something to sticking with that and just like seeing what you're capable of and just going and accomplishing that goal. For me, like giving up, if I had set that goal, would have been harder for me than to leave.
I think a lot of people have great plans and they have epic adventures in their head, but when it comes time to actually doing it, they talk themselves out of it.
Sure.
So leading up to that, weeks out, then days out, was it, hey, gung-ho, we're going to do this? Or how did you deal with any sort of little lingering doubt? Like, should we really? Like, how do you prevent yourself from being a planner but not a doer, rather than like some people? How do you follow through?
Yeah, so I think that early on when the beginning idea comes around, I bat around the ideas of like, what are my intentions around this, and what if something happens, or if I get injured, or like playing out the different scenarios or the doubts, or this is crazy, why would I do this? I don't have a ton of experience, or what if I capsize, and all the what ifs. And but I think that when I finally commit to a decision, I'm like, nope, I'm doing it, I'm gonna stick through. And even preparing, you have that nervousness, you have that like anticipation, or for sure doubts of like, am I capable of this? What if I get injured? What if I capsize? What if I get eaten by a whale? Like, for me, I've always resolved to the fact of I would rather go out, like if death is the thing that people are most fearful of, right? So or getting injured or something like that. But for me, if that were going to be the way that I go out, then all like, great, that's great.
Yeah.
I'd rather that than like some random trip and fall, somewhere else, or get hit by a car or something. Like, yeah, and just like minimizing those fears and really just recognizing the gravity of the beautiful experience and opportunity that I had.
Do you think that's something that can be learned, or is it something that you just are kind of born with, this idea that the follow through and the not be fearful in certain things? Is that something that you think everybody has, just a matter of whether or not they use it, or is it something that you're born with?
I think it's a combination. I think that some people, for sure, you see even at an early age, are fearless, are climbing on the monkey bars and just going everywhere and don't really have any like real reservations. And you have other people who are quite timid and like, so I think that there's some aspect that you're born with. But I think that the culture and what we surround ourselves by really plays a role as well. There's a lot of things, including our media, especially media, and we're just saturated, just inundated with this media that's very fear-based. So I think that a lot of things, we're just like, oh, I knew this neighbor who this situation happened to, and we liken it to our own situation. And then I really think that fear holds people back. So I do believe that even if you're born with fear or it's influenced by the culture, that you can overcome it. I think that it's small steps over time, recognizing that you're going to be okay, you're going to get the validation you need, everything's going to be all right, and then you can rise above that for sure.
We were talking earlier about things that you wake up in the morning and do, and you mentioned media right there. So you mentioned first that there were times in your life where you kind of woke up and put on the news, but as soon as you kind of got yourself away from that, it started your day better. Can you talk a little bit about that?
For sure. So there, just getting into routines, habits, you put on the news and you hear all of the things that happen, and typically it's negative things. Even if it's earthquakes or shootings or whatever, and that's the first thing you listen to. It enters into your subconscious. It changes your energy, and you have, for me personally, I have this just negative kind of heaviness as I start my day. Versus I recognized, I went on a yoga teacher training for a month and didn't have any news or any external stimulation in that way with media or any current events. And I was fine. In fact, I was lighter. I was more positive. Nothing shifted. Nothing was super pertinent to me personally. If big life things happen, you end up learning about it. But so I start up my day with either music that really inspires me or a podcast or a book. And it's really changed the energy as I move into the day, for sure.
What are you reading? What are you listening to?
So I really love Brené Brown's books. I've just finished listening to her book, her latest one called Braving the Wilderness. Have you heard of her?
I have not.
Okay. So she's known as the vulnerability and shame expert. So she really approaches topics that are difficult for people to talk about. So learning how to really overcome, even like we're talking about fear or shame or guilt or this heavy feelings or whatever our life situations that can hold us back from rising above and just being our strongest, best self, from really recognizing what we're capable of. And, a lot of times those fears or even just feeling like I'm not good enough or I'm not strong enough or I'm not capable, those things hold us back. So Brené really does an amazing job of going through, she does research, so all of it's evidence and interviews and things that she hears over time, and has developed these books that are just really amazing. I recommend it to anybody to read. Yeah.
How do you gauge the idea of shame? There are people who encourage you to do things better, to kind of encourage you as an accountability versus going over the top and the term fat shaming, where it's I feel really bad and you're shaming me. And then on the other end of the spectrum, there's the I love who I am, which is really a much less version than the person that you could be. How do you find the balance with yourself, or as a therapist, coach, help people understand that love who you are, but don't accept such a lesser version? How do you deal with that in your own life and then with other people?
Sure. Yeah, that's a really great point, because I think that shame is overutilized for sure. And I think that the anecdote to that is just embracing a lesser version of ourselves, just like you said. So I think that recognizing where shame comes in and not allowing it to really keep you down, to really
feel bad enough, just bad enough to change, rather than so bad you're not going to do anything.
Right. And I think that for sure embracing who you are and where you are, and a lot of my clients, so I'm doing personal training right now, and a lot of my clients come and they feel just bad about their bodies, or if I just lost this extra weight, or if I just lost this or that. And so I think the thing is not embracing I'm fat and I love it and I'm embracing that, because usually, Jeff, there's something underlying to that. It's not even about the weight, right? So I ask deeper questions around, and a lot of it's just about self-love. So if you love yourself, that's one thing. You don't have to love yourself for being 400 pounds. If you are working in the direction to just be healthy, to be fit, to be whatever version of yourself makes you feel the best, that brings the best to your relationships, that brings the best to your community. And so I think that, like, again, underlying thing of, like, where does that come from? Where is that shame? Where is that guilt? And not, like, start these spirals where, like, oh, I'm fat anyway, so I'm just going to keep eating this box of Oreos or bag of whatever and just, like, keep that trend going. You can break that cycle. Love your body for who you are. Love yourself for who you are. But always try to be the best version of yourself.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
Reading and listening a lot, and it's astonishing how much control we actually have over our own wellness, mental well-being and physical well-being based on how we eat. And it seems as though we kind of, as a country, you look at our commercials and everything's about this new pill which helps with this, and so it's kind of, you go to the doctor, you have this ailment, and we're treating the symptom rather than the cause, which is something related to diet and exercise. So we could just do that, but instead of do that, we look for the pill. Foods that can impact your gut health and even depression, things like that. How much control do we have over our well-being just through fitness, mentally and physically? Like how much more control do we have than what we think? So much. I feel like you just threw me a softball, right? Here we go. I could talk about this forever. So food, number one, is the most important thing to our health, to our mental health, to our well-being. And I've been on this rant about sugar lately. Sugar is like poison, and it's addictive, and it changes our brain chemistry. There's so much research about it. It causes inflammation in the body. As a physical therapist, the first thing I ask is, how much sugar are you eating? You're going to have achy joints and achy body, and you're not going to feel like moving if you're just have this inflammation in your body. So eating and even knowing what types of foods decrease inflammation. So knowing that turmeric with black pepper decreases inflammation in the body, or cayenne pepper, eating cayenne pepper, just doing different things, going back to our roots of food is medicine, and really going back to what is actually food, eating real whole foods, not processed foods. Processed foods, even if it says low fat or no sugar, it's chemically based, so it releases things in our body that tell us that it's sugar because it doesn't know how to break it down properly. There's not really it can't go into a category, so it releases things telling us that it's high carb or high sugar, and it really, really affects the brain chemistry. It affects how we feel about ourselves. It affects how we sleep. It affects how we even wake up the next morning. You shouldn't wake up feeling super groggy if you've slept well, if you've slept 6 to 8 hours, and so the cycle continues. So the first thing to break that is eat well. You're going to want to move better. You're not going to have inflammation in your body, and you're just going to feel better overall. I like when I go hunting, I'll take the 0 calorie, 0 sugar Powerade to get a little bit, something as I'm going. But I know there's a color and there's a taste.
Right.
So it's not zero. There's not nothing in there, of course. But it's one of those where I'm going to be taking a lot of steps and this and that, and so I feel okay about it. But at the same time, I'm not fooled. Like, I know what's going on here. This is not great, or it's not as advertised for sure.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the strength and empowerment program that you started here? What's that about?
Yeah, so I'm currently working, again, as a physical therapist, and I am also a nutrition coach, and I teach yoga. And so people started coming to me for personal training, and I realized that they were looking for more than just learning how to lift weights. So just tapping on all of those aspects of the physical well-being, mental, spiritual, and just really kind of, and emotional, just tapping into all of those areas. So I set up a program. I teach people how to do basic weightlifting first, and of course deal with range of motion limitations, strength or muscle imbalances, flexibility, just all of that. So that's one aspect of it. But I send people homework to do. So I really want to empower people to not have to rely on me as their coach to take them through every single workout. I want to teach them how to design their own programs, how to substitute movements, how to modify things for their bodies. And with that, we take care of ourselves and learn the cadence of the exercise. It's not always going hard all the time, every single day, breaking down the body. You have to allow it to recover as well. So what recovery with cardio looks like, what recovery with stretching looks like, what recovery with eating good food looks like. So each week I layer the program and I give them homework and teach them a little bit more, just as you would in your classroom, probably starting with chapter 1, and just keep going, layering that on. And in addition to that, I ask them mindfulness questions. So just having them reflect on these things about, like, do you have a fear of failure? When have you failed before in your life? And what are things that came out of that? And just asking them deeper questions so that they can come to be this person who, and it's funny too, because people come to me and say, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds. And then while we're in the program, they're like, I'm not even worried about that anymore. Nice. I feel strong. I feel grounded. I feel more secure. My relationships are changing. I can move through life better. And it's just amazing to see people blossom into this program.
How do you prevent people from, at the beginning, resenting their diet because they miss Oreos, or they miss bread, or they miss something else, or they feel miserable because, man, I'm working out and it's just it pains me. My old life it seemed so much more comfortable in this workout schedule. It's tiring and it's hard work, and then I can't eat what I want. How do you get them to adopt the process and not resent what it's depriving them of, or what they think it's depriving them of?
Sure. And I try not to be a shame-based program. So if people say they eat Oreos or have their birthday cake or whatever, great, enjoy it. So I think that there's some things in moderation for sure. But recognizing, so one huge aspect is I try to have people just bring awareness. So noticing how they feel. And generally, that's a self-feedback loop then. If they feel good, they're going to want to eat things that nourish their bodies and help them recover. If they don't eat well, then they give that self-feedback too. So I really try not to, shame or, tell people, oh, you shouldn't eat that, you can't eat that, and, keep it really strict, and just have them gauge it on their own and help people guide themselves in their growing edges. This week, we're just going to focus on being consistent with exercise, or, just ease them into the program. So that you don't have to give up everything all at once. I think that if you try to do anything in an extreme fashion, it's not going to work. And you might get results right away, but it's not sustainable results. So I really try to help guide people and even set goals. Sometimes we don't even talk about nutrition until week 18 because it's just all they can do to work out. Sometimes they don't do all of their homework, and that's fine too. It's just you meet your body where it is, recognize where you are in your life, and see if you can reprioritize certain things to shift to be sustainable over time. So I don't think it's a big shock for people to all of a sudden give up all of their comfort foods or sit on the couch. They can sit on the couch if they want.
This is probably the worst time of the year because you've got Halloween candy, and then you've got Thanksgiving, and then you've got Christmas. So these next 2 months are just horrible with overindulging and with sugar and everything like that. So how do you kind of prepare people for that?
Yeah, great question. Actually, this week's mindfulness questions are all about overindulgence and like what you feel when you do and how you can celebrate and still have a little bit and not feel like you just went off the rails. But the reality is some people are going to go off the rails. I'm one of them. I'm certainly not perfect. Like, I love my sweet treats just as much as anybody else. So I know the reality of the situation, but it's how quickly you can get back onto it. How quickly can you go back onto eating fresh fruits and vegetables and real food and like enjoying what you ate, like but I think that this is a hard time of year, and really what I encourage people to do is set reasonable goals for themselves. And maybe it's all I can do to get to the gym 2 times a week. Great, let's do that. Let's keep you accountable. And I think that having a community and having like this playfulness aspect too, where it's not just like get in, get the work done, like it's fun and people want to do it and want to move. And so I think having community and having other people they can talk about it with, and just seeing the struggles and connecting other people to say like, yeah, I'm struggling too, but I can have a brownie, not 10 brownies.
Yeah.
So just really supporting people in that way, helping them rely on community.
That the whole resolution thing, you know, you talked about the community and the people that you're surrounding yourself with. You know, you're 14 days into January and you haven't had a soda yet. And then you have your first one, and the people, if they point out and say, oh, look, you know, you ruined your resolution, and then, yeah, you fall off and you're back to drinking soda again. Versus the people who, all right, you know, you made it 14 days of that one. You know, you have one day, and the next day you don't have one. You know, 15 out of the 16 days you haven't had one, and you're in good shape there. But I think the community thing is really important.
How to not spiral so quickly too, like to just oh well, I can't do it anyway.
There's that kind of guilt that you're trying to do something and I'm not, but I feel guilty about it, so I want to drag you down to that whole high school type thing, right?
Totally.
Where why are you getting good grades now? But
right.
So it's totally like that. What else do you have to say about optimizing yourself and the witness and the fitness and the diet, especially with Ketchikan? It's dark now. It's not, you know, it's 5 to 5 right now, and it's been dark for 15, 20 minutes. What about that darkness, the seasonal affective disorder type thing? Do you see that people have a difficult time with that and showing up to the gyms, or?
For sure. Darkness, vitamin D, like just not having the sun it's no joke. It's hard. And I think that, again, just falling back on consistency, just getting there, hitting the sauna, just being warm, like doing something you can for your body, just showing up, right? Showing up is the hardest part. And I think that as I'm building this empowerment program and I'm teaching yoga and I get 15 to 20 people per class, that's developing this little community of people who we're going to know if you don't show up. And it's not like, again, not shaming anybody into like, where were you? But in a concerning like, hey, I noticed you weren't at yoga today. Everything okay? And like, oh, somebody cares if I'm there. And that makes a difference too. And even if you don't have a gym partner or something, you have people who hold you accountable because they're going to expect to see your face and they're going to expect to, you know, see you there, and it just builds this beautiful community. And I think having buddies to go outside with or just move, right, and not let the elements or the darkness get to you. It does for sure. But again, everybody in Ketchikan's going through the same thing. So let's rely on each other and just encourage each other to get up and get moving.
Compared to other places you've lived, how is the community in Ketchikan as far as like, you know, your people, your tribe, you know, where do they rank as far as the other people, other communities you've been a part of where you've lived?
Ketchikan's amazing. It's the best community I've ever lived in. This is part of the reason we moved back. I always tell people I don't move places for the weather because I certainly wouldn't have moved here for that.
Exactly.
But the community is outstanding. If you have an idea, people rally behind you. If you want to do something, there are 10 other people who want to do it. The art community is awesome here. The hiking community. I was in search and rescue for a long time training my dog. I was on the canine team, and we were out while it was raining 4 to 5 inches, just in our rain gear, like talking about comparing different types of gear and how we can optimize that. And just there's something to do here. There are people who are like-minded, and you can really fall and rely on this community. It's really special.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sitting down with me here. Where can people find you? You started a YouTube channel. Where can people contact you if they want to get involved? How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can watch Annette Ulmer and I's YouTube free yoga that'll help you during those gloomy days too. It's called Rainforest Yoga. You can check us out there. And you can find me at Amanda Schuler on Instagram or Facebook.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff.